I want you to look at this picture from the now deleted Instagram account of a guy called David Geffen. He's a billionaire. He's worth $7.7 billion. This is on a boat where he's isolating, and it's worth $590 million, or that's what he's bought it for. And of course, this tells us a few things. Now, at face value, you could say, not everybody's this lucky. How dare he flaunt it? That's true, but I think it's not the most important point. Because I've got a question for David Geffen. You can isolate in the Grenadines or the Maldives on your boat for 3 months. You can leave reality. But what happens afterwards? What happens when you run out of petrol? What happens when you run out of clean drinking water or food or, heaven forbid, medicine? Well, then you'll need to return to everyday reality, won't you? You'll need to dock, and you'll need to engage with people who are having to deal with a pandemic, coronavirus. And I think there's two important points to make about this photo. The first is, for people like David Geffen, a key part of their ideology, their worldview, is that capital, money makes the world move, not labour. People like David Geffen view capital as the driving force of the world. Now, when you go outside or peep out your front door, you won't see many people. Or if you go down a high street, you won't see many businesses open. You won't see how entrepreneurship is what's creating wealth and value. You won't see how capital is making value which wasn't previously there. Without labour, without working people reproducing the world every day with every sunrise, none of that works. The world doesn't move. But for people like David Geffen, part of their worldview is that if I spend enough money, if I amass enough money, I can escape anything, including a pandemic. Maybe for 3 months you can, but not forever. Because capital doesn't make the world go round, labour does. You're going to have to re-engage with working people. The second point is, I think this offers a snapshot as to how elites might view this crisis. 3 months, we'll go back to normal. Hard to envisage when you've had 10 million Americans take out unemployment insurance. Nearly 1 million Britons have started the universal credit process. So how do you go back to normal when you have governments like the US, the UK running massive deficits, massive unemployment? Not to mention the huge healthcare crisis. How do you go back to normal? And so I think this is a really historically useful picture. It illustrates the ideology these people operate on and how they think money makes the world go round, not working people. And also how crises look. People are born in the 50s, the 60s, they think a crisis is 3 months down, 6 months up. But actually it turns out that since 2007, 2008, we're seeing an accumulation of crises which aren't cyclical. And actually, if anything, the coronavirus is a foretaste of what we're going to see with climate systems breakdown, climate change. This is reality. You won't be able to sell off for 3 months and come back to the world as it was in 2001. High employment, easy credit, stock market gains, home ownership rising. That world is gone. What we've got instead is rising homelessness before this crisis, low economic growth before this crisis, declining home ownership before this crisis, and now that's about to be put on steroids. And actually, the next big political debate is, who's going to pay for this? Who's going to pay for a world where deficits are running at 10-11%? We've got to massively improve and increase public health infrastructure. Who's going to pay for this? Because it can't be the same people who paid for the last crisis. The only possible solution I can see to this crisis is increasing taxes. Pretty much on everyone, of course, but particularly the wealthy. Particularly people who flaunt being on a $590 million boat in the middle of a pandemic. You know what? Those are precisely the first people who should pay for this crisis. Precisely the first ones. They should be paying for this before the people right now who are taking out universal credit or who are losing jobs or even closing businesses. Why should they pay for the crisis? When a guy worth 7.7 billion thinks he can go on a boat in the Grenadines and not face the consequences, thinks he can almost live on another planet to the rest of us. Well, you can't. That's another big takeaway for this, is that no matter how good your private healthcare is in the United States, you've got tens of millions of people uncovered. And to stop a pandemic like this in the future, you want vaccinations. So you probably already agree there should be some form of universal public healthcare because it's in your rational self-interest. The question is, where do you want that to stop? Because the thing that this crisis is revealing is that pandemics, like financial crises, don't care about borders. They affect all of us. And that's not some woo-woo hippie social call to arms, we all need a higher state of consciousness mentally. Maybe we do. It means politically we need to construct a settlement which ensures that working class people are looked after, which ensures that the people with the broadest shoulders pay for what we're about to have to do as societies around the world, but that after that we understand that the peoples and nations of this world are deeply interconnected. They're deeply imbricated with one another. The fate of somebody suffering a virus in Wuhan, China, has consequences for a billionaire in the Grenadines, even if you don't think it, David. This photo is a historical snapshot of the elites we've seen over the last several decades and how they view the rest of the world. But the thing with coronavirus is that world's about to disappear.